A big warm welcome to this week's episode of Celebrate a Sister podcast. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Liz Hanson. She is the owner and photographer at Chicago Boudoir Photography, a boutique studio that empowers women to feel confident in their bodies, relationships, and lives. Liz opens up her commercial studio in 2018 and has since photographed more than 2,000 women. That's impressive, Liz. She has been featured on the TEDx stage, on the National Public Radio with the Association of International Boudoir Photographers. Liz holds a BA in art and an MA in education. She lives in Chicago area with her husband and two teenage daughters. Welcome, Liz.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Emma. It is great to be here.
So wonderful. We were just saying before we hit record how wonderful it is to connect on the other side of the world. So, Liz, I wanted you to share with the audience just a little bit more about yourself and how you help women and the work that you do with boudoir photography, and maybe even explain what boudoir photography is. It's such a beautiful name, boudoir. I love saying it. Can you share a
Yeah.
little bit? What even is it?
Yeah, boudoir or boudoir, it's a fancy French word that means a woman's bedroom. In the photography industry, it has come to mean a sensual or sexy photo shoot that women can come in to the studio to feel empowered and confident in their own skin. So, what I do is I create a safe space for women to celebrate their bodies and their relationships. And during this photo shoot, it's more than just a photo shoot for most women. It's a chance to really celebrate their journey and their life. So I always say that my business is boudoir, like that's what I do, that's the business I'm running, but I have this broader mission to help women feel confident and empowered. And I love, love, love this podcast, Emma, and the way you celebrate a sister. So thank you for the work you're doing in this realm as well.
We're in this together because I feel we both have a mission, and whether it be through photography or the words, I would imagine that I love the description of that. I did not know that boudoir means a woman's bedroom. How gorgeous is that? And I would imagine that a lot of coaching perhaps happens once someone steps into your studio and you're creating this safe space. I can only imagine that there is a lot of gentleness and kindness that helps a woman become comfortable to be photographed. Because let's be honest, not many women even like to have a photo with their family at a Sunday lunch, let alone get into something a little bit more, I guess you could say, risky and be photographed. So what is the journey like when a woman comes to you, or the process of you helping a woman get into that space? How does that unfold? And have you got an example or even a personal example of what the transformation is for yourself or a woman that goes on the journey of being brave enough to be photographed in her gorgeous body?
Yeah, everything you said is true. This is doing a boudoir photo shoot is out of most women's comfort zone. And it can be even a little taboo, right? We live in a society for a lot of women, our bodies are not to be shown. There's something wrong with our bodies. Our bodies are shameful, right? And to document and celebrate your body in this way can be really nerve-wracking. And I get that. And that's part of the reason why I do this work is because I believe it is nerve-wracking, but for that reason, it is also very valuable and important for women to come do this. So I did a boudoir photo shoot for myself about 10 years ago. I was shaking in my boots. I was so nervous. I didn't think I could do something like this. But I came out of the photo shoot feeling more confident and ready to show up in my life in bigger and better ways. And I wanted other women to have that experience as well. So I've really crafted an experience for women where I've created this safe, private space with 100% female staff to give women the opportunity to really feel comfortable in their own skin when they come to the studio. And every woman's reason for coming in is personal and can be different. So I have women who come in for really happy reasons. Maybe they're getting married, maybe they're having a baby, maybe it's their 30th birthday and they're there to celebrate. And then I also have women who come in for kind of harder reasons. Maybe they got divorced and they're starting a new chapter. Maybe they have gotten out of an abusive relationship. Maybe they have a breast cancer diagnosis. So there can be all kinds of reasons why a woman decides it's her time to do a boudoir photo shoot, and I'm there with them each and every way. I'd love to share a couple of stories of women who've come in. A story that I
Please.
will never forget is Sarah. Sarah came into my studio on the 1 year anniversary of a near fatal heart attack. So she was a healthy 44-year-old woman and she had a sudden massive heart attack out of nowhere. And they rushed her to the hospital. And while she was in the ambulance, she actually was medically dead. And they resuscitated her and brought her back to life. And she lived through the experience, but they had to cut her open and she had scars up and down her torso, like lots of ugly surgical scars, because they were doing this emergency surgery to save her life. There wasn't time to make it pretty. And
Mm.
she came into the studio on the 1 year anniversary of her heart attack because she wanted to celebrate her body and those scars and say, I am alive. And these scars are a badge of honor that I'm here. And so we took really beautiful nude photos that highlighted her scars. We didn't Photoshop them out, we didn't hide them. Instead, we wanted to show those scars and celebrate them for the life that she's living now. And that was meaningful for me to be there with her, to be there with her on her anniversary and celebrate her life right now as it is today.
Oh, how beautiful. And what a beautiful way that she looked at that too and celebrated those scars and said, I'm here. Because I would imagine the alternative could have been, oh, can you Photoshop them out?
Sure.
That, but no, that is a beautiful story. How empowering for her. Well done. Beautiful.
And one of the things I do at my studio is so we take the pictures and then right then and there while you're at the studio, I show you a slideshow of the pictures before you leave. And of course, it's fun to get that instant gratification, but one of the other reasons I do that is I want you to see the pictures without photoshopping. I want you to see your photos without a filter and see how beautiful and powerful and gorgeous you are just as you are. Now, of course, if you want some photoshopping, you want me to take some acne off your face or whatever you got, I'll do it later. But I first want you to appreciate and sort of bask in those pictures right then and there without the photoshopping. Because I believe every woman is beautiful and powerful and worthy of being celebrated just as you are.
Oh, Liz, that is powerful. And I would imagine for some women that's probably quite challenging to see those photos without all the because now we live in a world where filters are a common thing. I declared maybe 12 months ago not to use a filter again when I'm in Instagram. Oh my goodness, Liz, there are some days I completely regret that and say I just want to put a filter on, but I don't. I just move into a bit of better lighting or I don't post. But some days it's really, really challenging. So I would imagine for those women, thankfully it is in good lighting and you are posing their beautiful bodies in the best possible way. Is it quite a turning point for some women? Do they often go, oh my gosh, is that me?
Absolutely. So you said it, you imagine that it's challenging for some women to look at pictures without a filter, and you think it would be. Many women sit down in the chair right before I turn on the slideshow and they're like, oh, I'm a little scared. I don't want to see the photos. But almost without fail, they look at the pictures and they're like, wow, I look great. I can't believe that's
Oh,
me. And I do have a rule in the studio, the whole time you're there, no negative self-talk.
yeah,
So it's okay to not like a picture. We don't have to love every single photo that I take because I show you a lot of photos, but you cannot say anything negative about yourself. But the
yeah.
fact of the matter is that most women just haven't seen themselves in this way. Imagine like your beautiful back that holds you up, that is strong and carries burdens and all these things. How often have you seen your own back? Not very often,
Never.
right? And I love to take beautiful photos of women's backs because I think it's a beautiful part of the body, but you've just never seen your own back, right? So I put a picture and they say, "Is that what my back looks like?" And I'm like, "Yes, that is your gorgeous back." So there's a little bit of magic that happens when women can actually see themselves for the beautiful goddesses that they are. And yes, there's lighting, yes, there's posing, but this is you, and this is how that's what I hope to bring is my view of how beautiful you are to show you that through my camera and through my photography.
Yes. That is so true. We don't see because our eyes look out. We don't see our body. And you could, and this is what happens with the negative self-talk, and I guess a little bit of, I mean, it's a strong word, body dysmorphia, but this is how it happens because we never actually get to see our bodies. We don't know what our side profile is because we can't see it. We don't know what perfect, we don't know what our back looks like. We don't know a lot of different angles we look like because we've never been photographed in a beautiful way to let us exactly celebrate this gorgeous body that we have. But everybody else sees us for who we are. And when we get a compliment and we push it away, this is part of that embracing your beautiful body, seeing those different angles. Very empowering. Very empowering. I've never thought
And
of it that way.
a lot of the views of ourself that we see are distorted, literally. So a phone, the lens, when you put a lens this close to your face to take a selfie, it literally distorts your face because you have to, the way lenses and optics work, it's a wide angle lens, so it flattens out what's near the edge of the lens. So when you bring a selfie photo this close to your face, you literally see a distorted version of it in a selfie. And so we're so often seeing these distorted versions of ourselves. We're seeing literally lens distortion on a cell phone. We're also seeing the distorted messages that maybe we have internalized from our childhood, from media, all these kinds of things. So, what my mission truly is to help women see who they really are. I believe every woman is valuable and worthy. And I hope in a small way through a boudoir photo shoot that they can feel that and internalize that their value and their worth.
Mm. For all of our women listening, if confidence and exactly what Liz is saying, if you quite can't see the beauty in yourself, perhaps a boudoir shoot is definitely a great step in healing that relationship with your body again. And great point, because that is the truth. The truth is that the camera, a selfie distorts and the lens distorts who we are. So that is the truth of it. And here's the comparisonitis when often, and I'm speaking for myself, I'll look at someone else and think they look so beautiful and think, oh God, I look so old or this or that, or whatever the story is that day. But I've often probably looked at myself on a selfie or on a lens, and again, that distortion. So it's not the truth. It's not the truth. So even when we're hard on ourselves, it's obviously not always the truth. That is a great bit of information to know.
And we have to remember too that our thoughts about ourselves aren't always the truth. We can choose our thoughts and our beliefs, right? And we sometimes carry around limiting beliefs for years and years because we think they're true, but they're not serving us, right? So you can think that you're not worthy or valuable, but guess what? You're in charge of your thoughts. So you can also think that you are fabulous, right? And you can change that thought pattern and change your life.
Yeah. And this is a great tool. The boudoir photography is a great tool to help shift that perception too, because you can't then unsee the truth, which is you're beautiful. You're beautiful.
And I
So in a
always
way,
tell people, sorry, I always tell people you're going to have the fabulous experience at the studio, those few hours that you're with me, but then you'll have the photos always to look back on and remember. So it's sort of a gift that keeps giving.
yes. Do most people have them just for themselves, or do they gift them to their partner, or what do women usually do with them?
I have about 50% of the women come into my studio tell me I'm specifically doing this for a gift for a partner. And then about 50% say, nope, this is just for me. So, and even the women who create a gift for a partner, they say, it is a gift for my partner, but I'm glad I get to experience it as well. So you don't have to have a special occasion to do a boudoir photo shoot, but some people do, of course. There's a milestone, there's an anniversary, there's a birthday. But you can just do it just because.
Yeah, wonderful. That's it, just because. So, Liz, in a world that's constantly telling women how to look, how do you use your lens to help remember who they are?
It is such a good question. I feel like a lot of times we are told as women that there's only one way to be. There's only one lane to be in if you want to be a good woman. And I'm putting good in quotes, right? And
Yeah.
if you find yourself outside of that lane, that could be in behavior or in looks, and suddenly you are less than or devalued. And I know that I carried that thought for a long time from my childhood. I picked it up from various sources along the way that there was only really one way to be. And that if I didn't follow the mold, if I didn't look the mold, and you have to understand the beauty mold is young and thin, right? And if you don't fit that, then sorry, out of luck, lady, right? And it turns out we're all getting older every day, right? And that narrow beauty standard, I just don't believe it at all. I truly believe sexy is not a size. Sexy is not a number. Sexy is an attitude and it's a way that you carry yourself. And I hope that through my work as a boudoir photographer, I can get that message through to women that when they come to the studio, I have women from age 21 to 81 who've done a boudoir photo shoot at my studio. And they all are gorgeous and they're all beautiful and they're all worthy of being documented. And so that is just, I think the world needs more women who know that, more women who tap into their own power, because that's how we're ultimately going to change the world.
I think you said a line there that is a brilliant tagline, or we need this in bold: sexy isn't a size, sexy isn't a number. That is so true. It's an essence of a woman. And I believe that is our work, because yes, you're right, Liz. There comes a time where if once we were in a smaller body or in a younger body or whatever it is, our work now is, like you said, is to change our thoughts and find ways that we can still embrace each stage of life. And what a sexy, what is it? It's not a number. I love that. That is brilliant. So what is it? It's what we bring to the world. And it's how we feel about ourselves and how we move in the world. And it's not necessarily like you say, one size fits all, because we've been told that for many years. We've been shown one kind of woman for far too long. And I do believe things are changing. I do. But I also know that depends on your algorithm. So if you are following just a certain kind of woman, that is going to be reinforced. So even though, as much as I love to think the work that you and I are doing are making a change, for some women it's still not. They're still caught in the diet paradigm and they're still caught in the number paradigm. Even just recently, like a couple of days ago, and I don't know how to even respond to this comment. And someone, because I practice, I will never, ever again in my life comment on a woman's size, shape, if she's lost weight. I will never say that again. And someone had said to me this week, "Oh, you've lost weight." And I said, "Oh, I wouldn't know. I don't have a set of scales. I threw them out years ago." But I don't know how else to respond to that. And I didn't want to say, "Oh, can you please not mention my weight?" I don't know if I should have or I shouldn't have. I don't actually know. But I know that it's just not a topic that I'll ever bring up, because I almost want to say, if you're going to say that to me when I put on weight, are you going to say the same thing? Oh, Emily, you've put on weight. You know, it has to be an equal measure, and we don't do that. And it's not something to be rewarded either. And it's not something to get attention for me about. I'd just rather we didn't talk about it, actually. So
It's
it's an
true.
interesting
And
thing.
it is an interesting thing. And one thing I've really tried to help women understand is so there's this body positivity movement where you just have to say, like, I love my body, I love my body. Great. But you might not be able to get quite there yet. So I always tell women, let's try to get to some body neutrality first. So let's say you aren't loving your body right now. Instead of saying, I love my body, and trying to get there, that may be a bridge too far right now. You might not be able to believe that yet, but can you instead say, you know what, I have a body? Instead of saying I hate my body, can you say I have a body? And you know what? You know what? Having a body is a gift. And what does my body do for me? My legs let me run, my arms let me hug, my belly lets me laugh. Can you look at your body as a beautiful instrument that allows you to live your life rather than hating it? Just get to that neutrality, because you don't have to love everything. You don't have to get to I love my body, but can you get to a more neutral place where you're appreciating? I follow a woman on Instagram, speaking of the algorithm, who was diagnosed with ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, a few years ago, which is a degenerative degenerative disease. And she's now confined to a wheelchair. And she talks all the time, man, when I could walk, why wasn't I just like the happiest person on the planet all day, just walking around? Like, I took that for granted. I think about that every time her stuff pops up in my feed, her posts. I think, I am grateful that I can walk. I am going to go for a walk and appreciate my body. So that is something that's really important to me is that gratitude, that body neutrality, and just appreciating what your body does instead of what it looks like.
Yes. And in terms of photography and capturing photos, and I don't believe there's a person on the planet that hasn't looked back at a photo that was taken 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and gone, gosh, I looked good. So right now, how we stand, if we snap a photo today, Liz, no doubt next year when we see this photo, we go, gosh, we look good. It's always going to happen, isn't it? But how is it in the moment that there's an uncomfortableness around it? What would you say? What do you believe is the biggest barrier why women? I know quite a few women that just will not be photographed, like even in a family event or a party. What do you believe is the underlying thing? Have you ever had a woman that has come to have a boudoir photo shoot and been in that space but still gone ahead with it? What do you believe is underlying that for women who just cannot have a photograph taken?
Well, first off, like I would love to give that woman a hug and just tell her. So, I mean, we live in a world where think about like 200 years ago, no one took any photos, right? And like we didn't even think about it. And now we walk around with a camera in our pocket every single day of every second of the day, and we're photographed a million times a day, right? And so it's become such a part of our life. But I would tell this woman first off, you are worthy and valuable and fabulous just as you are. I always like this analogy. Think of holding a newborn baby in your arms. And we love that newborn baby and we value that newborn baby. But guess what? That baby has not really done anything. That baby hasn't gotten a job. That baby hasn't lost weight. That baby hasn't gotten married, right? That baby hasn't quote unquote achieved anything. And yet we know intrinsically how valuable that baby is, right? We love that baby. And I would want to tell this woman, you are just as valuable as you were the day you were born. Nothing that you have done or haven't done has reduced that value. And
Mm.
because of that, the people you love would love to be in photos with you and remember you. Your journey, because you are so valuable, your journey deserves to be documented. So you deserve to be in photos. You deserve to take photos with the people you love. Your body deserves to be in photos. And yes, have I had women who come to the studio and they're very, very nervous and self-conscious? Sure. I had a woman one time, she was in the parking lot and she called me because I have a commercial studio with parking lot outside. She called me from the parking lot and she's like, Liz, I have an appointment at 10 a.m., but I can't get out of the car and do this. I just can't. I said, you know what? Why don't you just come in, get a drink? I have some little snacks. Come on in. We won't take the pictures, but just come in. I'd like to meet you. Okay. Got her out of the car into the studio. And when she was in the studio, I said, listen, I have the beauty team here. Let's just do your hair and makeup. You don't have to take the pictures, but why not just get the makeover? Okay, we did the hair and makeup. And then I said, okay, you look great with your hair and makeup done. Why don't we just take some headshots in that blazer you have on? We don't have to do the boudoir, just a few headshots. Okay, sure. And then we slowly worked into it. And eventually at the end, we did the full boudoir photo shoot. She put on some lingerie. We did the thing. And she was so grateful that I'd helped her kind of stair step her way into the experience until she felt comfortable for it. And of course, afterwards, she loved the photos and she was so glad she did it. She just needed to take it in baby steps.
Yes, that is a beautiful unfolding, softly, gently, and no pressure. I love that. We'll just get there, no pressure. We'll see how we go. That is beautiful. And that's what it is for us sometimes, that little bit of warming up and probably to feel comfortable. I love that. That is a beautiful way to do it. So anyone who feels trepidation, maybe just say, I'm just going to do the makeover bit. Maybe I won't have the photos and see how you go.
And
Yeah.
the other thing I always tell, so listen, I'm not here to convince anyone to do a boudoir photo shoot who doesn't want to do it. So if,
Yeah.
but if you do have kind of this like little desire, this inkling, I would, depending on where you are, if you live in Australia, you're probably not coming to do a photo shoot with me in Chicago. But Call the photographer. Everyone who does a photo shoot with me, we have a phone call beforehand. Before you book, before you give me any money, I want to make sure that we're a good fit. And 99% of the time, when I talk to you and I hear about your story, that's when you start to feel comfortable working with me, right? So give your
Yeah.
photographer a call, tell them what your fears are, tell them what you want to get out of the session. Make sure it's a photographer that you feel comfortable working with. There's a lot of photographers out there and they all have a different style. But it all starts with that phone call. And then
Yeah.
always, always remember that how much skin you show in a boudoir photo shoot is up to you. You never have to show more skin than you want to. You can always pull back. It's always 100% consensual, of course.
Yeah, that's great advice. Yeah, great advice. So, Liz, as a mother of teenage daughters, how has your work with women's confidence shaped the way you speak about body image at home?
Such a good question. I have two daughters. They are 15 and 17, and they are fabulous. And like you were saying about how you don't comment on the size of people's bodies anymore, I also have stopped doing that. I think, when my kids were born 15 and 17 years ago, I wasn't quite as attuned to this work about female empowerment and bodies. And I probably was guilty of congratulating people for losing weight or commenting on someone's body or even giving more appearance-based compliments to people. And I have become like you, I don't do that anymore, right? So instead of saying to someone, wow, I love your outfit and your hair, I'm more inclined to say, it is great to see you and your beautiful smile. I suppose that is still a little bit appearance based with a smile, but like I'm just glad to see the person and not comment on how they look that day. Um, and I have been very conscious of that with my daughters as well. And I think I see little glimpses of them doing much better than I did as a teenager, being more confident in their bodies, more willing to stand up for what they believe in. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. It was a different time. And I see my kids, gratefully, my daughters, living more in line with their personal values and what they want than following a societal dictate of what they have to do or what they have to be. And I'm so glad to see that out of them. Um,
Yes.
they are getting a jump start, I think.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I have a daughter who's 23, and I don't believe I got it that right when she was younger. However, now the conversations we have are much more from that place. And I agree, she has a much more grounded perspective around her self image and her own confidence than I did at that age or younger. And that's been wonderful. And I believe that's our work as a mum, isn't it? Just to ensure that we do better than we had, that we're able to just share and part ways. And how wonderful, can you imagine what if we're blessed enough to have grandchildren or granddaughters, how wonderful will they feel in their body? Let's hope it will be even less of a thing. So it's these small changes that make a massive difference. But I feel around confidence and then going out into the world, I know that I stopped myself a lot of times because I thought my body wasn't the right shape or size. Simple things like going for a swim or doing just lots of things, or just the mentality, when I'm skinny, I'm going to, or when I lose that 10 kilos, I'm going to. And even thinking about the boudoir photography, which would be a massive challenge for me to do personally, if I was to do that, that's a massive challenge. But I think to myself, but if not now, when? This body is perfectly imperfect right here, right now. What am
And
I
in
waiting
5
for?
years, won't you be glad that you did it now?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the little game that we play with ourselves, though. It's that someday we put it off because we feel we're going to be some magical number or some magical size or whatever our story is. But the time is now. And the example that you told at the start of the podcast about that incredible woman that's life was nearly taken from her in a heartbeat, literally, to then celebrate. And that's where we're at, isn't it? To live if you've drawn to it. And like you said, you're not here to convince anyone, but from where I sit, I believe it's a wonderful way to start to build that beautiful relationship with your body. And perhaps I'm thinking, from my own perspective here, another level of layering that relationship with body and that acceptance and empowerment. And how do we become more confident? Sometimes it's through action, it's around doing. It's not an intellectual thing. It's sometimes an integrative thing that we actually do. We take a step forward, and that's how you integrate this confidence. Because I can only imagine how wonderful people feel. Yeah.
Yeah, and people tell me all the time, I couldn't do that. I'm not confident enough. And I always say, you don't have to have the confidence before you come. It'll come when you're here at the
Yeah.
studio.
Well, you don't
So
have to have the confidence. You have to have the courage.
exactly.
It's
And
like
once you're
courage
here,
before.
exactly, right? It's sort of like say, I mean, I'm trying to think of what the example is, but it's like you don't have to be ready. You just have to show up because
Yeah.
being ready doesn't help. Just come and then we'll make it happen together. And I mean, that's part of my job, right? Like, of course you're going to feel a little like out of sorts doing something like this, but that's my job. I know what I'm doing. I've photographed 2,000 women. I know how to create the beautiful photos. So I'm just asking you to put like a little bit of trust in me. And that's all I ask. I don't ask you to walk in and be super confident. I don't ask you to walk in and love every single part of your body. I don't ask you to do anything except for trust me enough to take some pictures. And listen, if we take some pictures you don't like, we delete them. No big deal. I'm going to show you a lot of pictures. So the risk is much lower than I think people think walking into a boudoir shoot, it's very high risk or that something terrible will happen. But actually, it's very low risk, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and I think we've built it up in our minds somehow that there's some, there's some consequence for putting, and I think that's some conditioning that we have as women that when women put themselves out there, or when they celebrate their bodies, or when they show some skin, that there are consequences in our society, right? And I think in some places there are, but in the boudoir studio, there are not consequences.
Yes. Yeah, that's it, because we don't realize the patterning and the belief system that runs through us that is so deep. And even though that's an example of, but it's our thought pattern. If I put myself out there, there will be confidence. There'll be consequences. If I do this, and it, yes, metaphorically, we could use that outside of the boudoir studio, going, where do I believe that it's a risk for me to actually be seen?
Exactly. Reminding yourself it's safe for me to show up. It's safe for me to be my authentic self. It's safe for me to feel confident and comfortable in my own body. I
Yeah.
mean, just even saying those words, I know that could be hard for some people to even say that, right? To say it's safe for my nude body is safe.
Yeah.
So start there, see if you can say some of these things. Um, I know that for me, this has been a journey to learn these things and overcome them. It's not an overnight thing, right? But it can, baby steps.
Yeah, it is. It is baby steps. I believe that too. Yeah, it's not an overnight thing. It's little tiny things that just shift your perception little by little, and having great conversations with other women who are, particularly if we get around people who are still in that paradigm of commenting on bodies and gossiping and talking about, it's just, yeah, I really try and remove myself from that narrative now, because I know it actually doesn't feel good. I can actually feel it. It actually doesn't feel good. So it's nice to get with people and have conversations like this that love to talk about raising the vibration of a woman, or raising the energy of a woman. Very empowering, Liz. I wanted to ask for the women who are listening and still don't feel ready to be seen, whether it's in a boudoir photo shoot or just in their daily life, what would you say to her?
What first comes to mind for me, Emma, is like your morning magic, right? So if you know Emma, if you're listening, right, your morning magic of setting those intentions, keeping your head straight. So it took me a long time to really understand the idea that my thoughts, I could choose my thoughts and beliefs. Because your brain serves you up all kinds of things all day. And some of it you don't have to keep. Just because it pops into your head, you don't have to keep it. So if you have a lot of thoughts, like you were saying, like, I'm not ready, it's not safe for me to show up, it's not safe for me to be seen. Those may be thoughts that your brain is supplying to you, but you don't have to keep them. And you can make it part of your daily ritual of it can be journaling, it can be meditation, it can be yoga, to choose different thoughts for yourself that serve you better. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm not ready, I don't love how I look, it's not safe for me to be seen, choose some other thoughts. What about
Yeah.
now's my time? I'm ready. It's safe for me. and
Yeah.
incorporate those into your meditations, to your journaling, to your yoga until it becomes the more default thought for you.
Yeah, I agree. And I talk a lot about yoga and whatever it is, any kind of movement. I think sometimes a bit of movement, a bit of somatic movement, no matter what it is, it could be swimming, it could be dancing, it could be walking. I feel like it's great to start to put those beautiful thoughts in when we are in movement, because we start to, then it makes that direct correlation, like you were saying before, like appreciating your legs and appreciating your body, because then you're getting direct evidence as you're putting these affirmations in, whether it be I am strong, I am capable, I am ready. When we're saying this while we're moving, there's this somatic thing that happens that we go, yeah, I am that. And I've that's why for me it's been yoga. Yoga has been a wonderful way for me to appreciate my body, because in yoga I feel it's never competitive. It's just between you and you on the mat. And that could be the same thing if you love to dance. If you're just dancing around your home and putting these lovely, appreciating your body, you've got that evidence right there that said, yes, I love the way my hips move, or whatever it is for you. But I feel that's the way also, I agree with you, Liz, is to start to put some new thought patterns in and let go of those old ones that potentially aren't even ours. We've heard them somewhere along the way and perhaps then started to reinforce them, but they're perhaps not even ours. So that's the work. And it's not easy. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. It is a daily practice, isn't it?
Mhm. Absolutely. Once
Changing those
once
things.
you tap into it though, once you get started, you'll start to see it all around you. You'll be like, why do I believe that? Do I want to keep believing that? Why is that? Where did that thought come from?
Yeah.
Why am I thinking that? And then you'll see other people and you think, why are they believing that about themselves? Where did that thought matter? They could choose a different thought. You'll it doesn't take long for you to start seeing it everywhere you go.
Yes. Yeah, that is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Because before we're so unconscious. Before we open up this lovely new way of thinking, we are just in it and become just the way of our being. Whereas then when we open up to it, is wonderful things shift. And I think, like you said before too, it is baby steps. Like it's almost like the analogy you gave, sitting in the car, then we just at least come into the studio and then we just at least do the hair and makeup. It's almost like that. But then that reinforcement and that validation as we go along is brilliant. So all you have to do is get out the car.
80% of success is showing up, right? Like
Yeah,
open up the book, take the step out the door to go for a run.
yeah,
Post that thing on LinkedIn that you've been wanting to start. Like just starting is often the hardest part, right? And taking that
it
first step can open up a lot of things in our lives.
is. Now, Liz, I wanted you to share, where can people find you, and how do you support women?
So the best place to find me is on my website, which is chicagoboudoir.com. Now, boudoir can be a tricky word to spell, but it's Boudoir.com. I'm based in Chicago here in the US. And if you go to my website, you can, of course, see my work about photography, but there's also a link for some free ebooks about empowerment, some self-talk, some printables. So wherever you are in the world, you're welcome to download some of those free resources that I have. And if you find yourself in the Chicago area, give me a call. I'd love to meet you as well.
Yeah, and hopefully you're going to get to Australia one of these days. Wouldn't that be lovely, Liz?
I would love to. Australia is on my bucket list. I would love to come visit.
Yeah, one of these days, things happen, don't they? When those girls are grown up and it's your time, perhaps it'll be time to take a trip to Australia, and you'll definitely have to come and visit me, and we'll do a boudoir shoot.
I love it. We'll do it out at the Surfer's Paradise near you, and you could put
Yes,
on a bikini, and we could do some waves crashing up against you. I can see it now.
sounds incredible. Wouldn't that be good for my confidence? Yes, it would.
It would be fun, right?
So good. Liz, I want to say thank you so much for our conversation today. I love the work that you do with women and how you just nurture them into a beautiful, safe space where they can celebrate their bodies. How wonderful. More of that for everyone. I know that's my vision, is more of that for everyone to have this confidence. And I know you too. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our listeners before we head off, Liz? Is there any little final word you'd love to share?
Well, I love the work that you do as well, Emma. Thank you for the light that you bring and I just love listening to you talk. I could listen to you talk all day. So keep it up. And if you're listening, try to keep that vibration high, like Emma says, and bring your light into the world.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks so much.